calling the meeting to order at 9:31. And Councilor Commissioner Lehman will be joining us shortly, and we also have the mayor online. So calling to order now, I'd like to move for its completion and acceptance of agenda. They have a motion to approve the agenda, moved by Commissioner Rahman, seconded by Commissioner Hopkins. Any discussion on the agenda? No, then all in favor to approve the agenda? And any opposed? That carries. Any disclosures of community interest? I will be stepping away for the discussion on the secondary student bus pass pilot program as my partner works at the school board, and turning the chair to Commissioner Rahman at that time. Any other closures? Okay, seeing none, moving to approval of minutes for July 21st and July 31st. And I'll get a motion for those. Moved by Commissioner Rosa, seconded by Commissioner Rahman. Any discussion on the minutes or any corrections? No. Seeing none, then motion to approve. All in favor? And any opposed? And that carries. So we do have an edited presentation, as the commissioners might have seen in the email. So we don't need a motion to receive it at LTC. So I'll invite Anna Maria Velastra up to, if you'd like to sit at that chair. We have 5 minutes to chat about your communication. So please welcome and thanks for coming.
Hi there. I just sent a letter. I'm hoping everyone read it because I want to spend my 5 minutes today just to expand on that idea. So the idea is just to allow local artists to exhibit their work on the bus. I do ride the bus, and I know there's lots of advertising on the outside of the bus, but on the inside of the buses, it's very empty. And I thought that it would be well used if we would allow artists to display some of their artwork or their writings, like poetry. Toronto also had a program once where they had poetry on the bus. And I'm also noticing as a bus rider that more and more people are not on their phones. This is not just in London. I ride the transit system in Toronto often because I go there to work. And it's the same here. It just seems like more and more people are putting their phones down and they're riding the buses and the trains quietly. And so this idea would be just to place these art pieces in places where there's no advertising at the time. So that is advertising space. So wherever it's empty, it could be filled in by local artists' work. And what I wanted to use my 5 minutes with today is just to make some suggestions of how it may play out. Because when I was part of this in the city of Toronto, like a long time ago, it was part of a festival that was a month-long festival the city had just launched called Contact. It was for the month of May. And so it had a time frame. However, the Toronto Transit Commission at the time left our pieces in the subway longer until it was sold. The space was sold, and some of the pieces stayed in the subway system for 2 or 3 months. So in absence of a festival, which maybe the city one day might decide to have a photographic arts festival, the London Transit Commission could implement this program by deciding when they might ask for submissions and how long those submissions might be present on the bus, until they're sold. The space is sold. It could be in the fall when there's an increase in ridership, or it could be in the winter also when there's an increase of ridership, and you could decide how long that space would be available for submissions. It could be 4 months. You could also do a rotation every 4 months, ask for new submissions, or just choose a month. And so it was really an effortless effort for the Toronto Transit Commission at the time. And they just had unused advertising space, and they decided, how long that piece would be there. It was really until it was sold. But I've been riding the bus now for several months. It seems like rarely does those spaces get sold. So in absence of a demand for advertising, you can just set limits on it. And then the parameters for, like, you wouldn't be curating the show. It would just be, the parameters you would set for the artist would be similar to advertising parameters, so no nudity, no porn, no, advocacy, nothing controversial. And those would be the parameters. If the submissions meet those parameters, then they're good to go, as opposed to, you know, deciding whether this is a nice piece or not a nice piece. That's subjective. And then it was as simple as that. Like, none of it was complicated. It wasn't the only workload would really be setting the parameters and then installing it for staff at the London Transit Commission. So I don't see it as being, I have anything to implement, and of course you can do a pilot project to see how it goes, but I just think it's just a wonderful opportunity. I noticed that there is artwork now on the underpass on Richmond Street. It was just wonderful to see it there. Hopefully no one will do anything to it, but just having it there just makes a big difference if you're a pedestrian and if you're riding the bus. I actually find it a little bit depressing when I go on the bus and I just see, the only advertisement I've ever seen there was Stag Shop. And then the rest of it was filled up with communications from the London Transit Commission, like how to be polite, no abusive behavior. And the rest of it was quite dull. And so I do think it really adds to the experience of riding the bus. And it might even attract advertisers because they tend to be wanting to be part of a good program.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate the explanation and the communication you sent along with it. So at this time, I was hoping to receive a motion get a motion to receive the delegation and the letter, and then maybe we can have some discussion on the item. So would you like to move to receive the delegation and the letter, and then we can discuss?
I'd like to receive the delegation and the letter, and also as part of the motion, I think there should be a motion on the table. I would like this board to approve in concept the idea and refer it to staff to come back with a report on further implementation guidelines.
Sure, maybe we could scope that a little bit more, just so that we have something for staff to bring back. Would you like for staff to bring back a report on the feasibility of having art?
Well, I want to make it clear that my motion is that this board likes the idea and we're approving it in concepts, and we want to see a staff report back on how this can be implemented, which certainly would include a reason not to do it if they have a good one. But I want this board, while we're here, to be the decision makers on this, subject to staff's implementation concerns. So
I think the only difficulty might be approve the concept. It's like not worded in such a way that there's just one concept. It references TTC. So I'm just hoping to scope it as to have staff bring back.
no, I think there's a difference. May I ask the delegate if you had to say in one sentence what your could you say in one sentence?
Commissioner Trosser,
What?
could we finish by, if you're halfway through putting a motion on the floor?
Yes, I made my motion and you don't like it.
But then I'd like to find a seconder for it, and I'm not sure if you want to repeat your motion. And
Yes, my motion
seconder.
is the motion is to receive the delegation and the letter and state that the commission agrees in concept to the general idea of having art on the unsold spaces on the bus, and then we ask staff to come back with recommendations in terms of implementation.
Right, so is there a seconder for that motion? I see the mayor's hand raised. I'm not sure if that's for seconding.
More for concept. I'm willing to second it if scoped just a little bit differently, but I'll wait till I can speak on it.
Okay. Any seconder?
I'm open to having it framed differently if somebody has a better idea how to make the motion.
Sure. Does anyone have any wording for scoping? Commissioner Lehman?
Yeah, I think there are general positive feelings here, but I don't want to say we're in favor. I think we should just ask staff to come back with a report that we can kind of, let's not get the cart before the horse. So I think it implies that we're in favor, and we're, or we're we're feeling good about it, to ask staff to come back, after the report. So that's kind of where I would feel more comfortable, I guess.
That's fine.
Commissioner Hopkins?
Yeah, I think the idea is great, but I would like to, more information. Before I agree on anything, I need to understand the process, what the rules are, that LTC has, and I really appreciate the delegation. I love the idea, but I'm not willing to say yes to something that, I really do not have a better concept and understanding, but if we could have a report, and maybe through the chair, an idea when this information can come to us as well.
Okay, sorry.
So is there a
Yeah,
motion
that-
first?
It's not, there's still not a motion, we're kind of wordsmithing the motion, but I just need the mayor's hand raised, so I think maybe we've almost landed on the wording, but, Commissioner Morgan, would you like to comment on the wording?
So I think that wording's fine. I think you have a seconder, but I'll second it if not. And then I'm happy to make comments if you want me to at this time, Chair, but I don't know if you actually have the motion on the floor, so let me know.
No, we don't. So, for wording, so motion to receive delegation in the letter and to direct staff to bring back a report on the feasibility of having, art on the buses, on the inside of the buses. Okay, staff are nodding their heads, and I heard a comment for request for a timeline. Would you have a big timeline on
Next week.
when this could come back? Early 2026. Good with that? See some nods. Okay, so Commissioner Roman, do you want to move that motion?
No, I just have questions.
You have a question about the motion? Okay, would you like to ask now?
Sorry, just to strengthen the motion, first off, thank you. I appreciate the delegation and the idea put forward. I would like to put some language around, connecting with One Council to have discussion about it, because I think this is in their wheelhouse in terms of what they do as well. So if we're looking to add art, maybe they have some suggestions and something contribute to the conversation as well. So I'm not sure if that can be scoped into the work, which I assume will take longer because we have to look at partnership opportunity as well. But as always, when we look to do something with artists, we have to make sure they're compensated as well. So,
Thank you. Okay, do you want that included in the motion?
yes.
Okay, so I'm just trying to scope this motion. To receive delegation and letter to direct staff to bring back a report by early 2026, and it being noted to consult with the Lenders Council. Would anyone like to move that?
Oh, no. Okay. I got other concerns.
Okay. Let's see, because I want to get a motion on the floor that everyone likes before I move forward. So Commissioner Plaza.
Everyone likes it. You might be here a while. I also am cautious about this turning into a 3-hour discussion like we ended up getting into yesterday at council for expediency. My other concerns are, I'm not sure what practices the LTC already has in regards to policies, looking at different communities, underrepresented groups, looking at the indigenous communities, as new local artists, who judges art of what's not offensive versus not is always a major discussion point. As we discussed, like what the budget review, there's always printing, someone still has to look at it, make sure it's okay. Does it meet the spectrum of colors, quality, how long it's off rotation, fair rotation? And if we're doing an art program, is it gonna be year round or just a specific lump of like, we've got this great program on Jump on LTC now, versus ongoing when ideally that ad space is also generating revenue for LTC and concerns.
Noting those concerns, I'm wondering if that could be, some of those concerns could be identified in the report back.
Through the chair, those are certainly all things we could talk about, and I can, maybe to help the discussion. Currently, all advertising on any LTC infrastructure is via contract. So we do not have a body in-house that does any of that. So we're now talking about finding internal resources to be judging art and putting a program together. That's why I'm saying this isn't something that we've got somebody on staff that this is their role. So that would certainly be part and parcel, but we can come back. We would also have to have discussions with our contractors because this would all impact the various contracts. So all of those things will take time but they would all be answered in the report that comes back that speaks to the feasibility.
Commissioner Pelosi, does that by some of your?
Yeah, I'm super part of that too, being municipal stand. If Toronto's already doing something, who else is doing something, how are they running it? They just partnered with it and kind of like, here's the parameters and hand it off with a partnership. definitely interested in the idea, especially if the space is currently vacant or could bring some extra joy in a conversation piece and shared community space, but just concerned about the workload we might accidentally be creating and other issues with how the art is adjudicated and chosen and the budget implications tend to be left. So I'm happy waiting to like Q1, Q2, 2026, as rather get it right than right now.
Just to be clear, the
Oh,
artist.
sorry,
the-
Ms.
oh,
Velastro.
The artist.
Sorry,
paid for
Ms.
the
Velastro,
printing.
I'm
The
gonna
artist
keep
paid
talking
for the
over to you
printing.
until you stop talking.
I know,
because
but I
we
just
are-
wanna
we're
make sure that
discussing
it's
this,
clear
yeah,
and
for
see
sure,
the letter,
right,
the
yeah.
artist. paid
So I'm
for
gonna
it.
go actually now to Mayor Morgan, who's had his hand up this entire time.
Thanks. So comments on this. I think this is really easy to overcomplicate in like 100 different ways. I'm a big supporter of visual arts. I went to Sheridan College before I went to university. I had a blank wall in my office, in the mayor's office. I reached out to both the school boards and said, I got a blank wall. I want to put some student art up. Every month it rotates between the two of you. A student comes in, they bring their family. They present it, we hang it on the wall. After a month, I give it back to them. It has a plaque saying this hung in the mayor's office from this date to this date. They love it. I don't pick the art. I don't vet the stuff. The school boards do it, and we showcase art every month in my office. This is something that we could think about really making a complex program and involving everybody, or you could just have some youth art on buses in our community when we have blank spaces, and they could produce it themselves. The school boards have amazingly talented artists, and they have the capacity to just produce a poster or a digital representation that can be given to our advertisers that can be put up when there's nothing there. Like, I think it could be really simple, or I think we could make this a big bureaucratic process. So I think the report back would be great, but I think that there's a path here to a simple solution that showcases maybe even focused on youth art in our community, using the school boards or even the indigenous schools in our areas, and reaching out to them and saying, we're looking for some art that we can use. We need it in this format for our current provider. They'll get it to you in that format if that's the case. So, anyways, I'm happy to support the report back, but I guess what I'm looking for is something that's easy, simple, and doesn't have a lot of demands, and maybe focuses on youth in our community.
Okay, thank you, and we'll probably add that as another item for staff to look at. Commissioner Hopkins?
Yeah, I do have a question, and maybe to the mover of the suggestion of adding the London Arts Council. And just listening to the mayor, I see his artwork there. I know in restaurants, there was a program that artwork was distributed. I don't think it had anything to do with the Arts Council. I do think we can complicate things. There's a very long process if we go through the Arts Council. I'm more interested in what LTC processes are, what we can and can't do when it comes to our contracts, and then going from there. I think the mayor makes a really good point, really complicate things. I would like just the report coming back sooner, first 2026, as soon as possible, and we should go forward.
Okay, so would you like to move a motion that says motion to receive the delegation of the letter and to direct staff to bring back a feasibility report by early 2026?
Yes.
Okay, that's on the floor. Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Commissioner Morgan. Okay, any discussion on that motion now? I see Commissioner Lehman, Rahman, and then Trotzer.
Yeah, just my thoughts. I like where the mayor was kind of going there with the uncomplicated thing. Maybe we do a pilot with student art. I mean, that would be a great way to get into it. My biggest fear is controversy. And, art is in the eye of the beholder. Some art is not controversial. Some is, depending on who's looking at it. Maybe by going the student route, we would avoid some of that. Different toe in the water there. I like the idea of, involving maybe Northern Arts Council as well. I think that's good.
Great. I think those, again, notes have been taken down by staff. Commissioner Rahman?
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the mayor's suggestion around using youth art. Just a reminder, there are 4 school boards, so we want to do all 4. And then private schools and everything else, who gets to decide that. That's a whole other issue around which schools and how. But I do think that as a pilot, there would be opportunity for local partners. So yeah.
Great. Commissioner Trotzer?
Yeah, thank you. I just, the motion's fine. This is becoming too much more complex than I was hoping. I thought we could just say, yeah, let's get a staff report back on this. The Arts Council, is they're going to set up a adjudication panel that can take months. So let's not do that. Yeah, we should, I'm glad somebody remembers we have an arts council and we should consult with them, but let's not get too in the weeds with them on this, and that can be in the staff report. This is somewhat, now that people are saying, I don't want controversy. This sort of reminds me of some of the discussions that we've had about the ad policy, which this is very related to, because we do have an ad policy, which many people feel is inadequate, but we do have an ad policy that talks about what the standards are. The ad policy is very clear that controversy is not ruled out. We recently had an instance earlier this year where there was a controversy, and I'm not going to go into the details about how that turned out and how other cities have dealt with similar issues, but I don't think we can say we're going to avoid controversy, because anytime you get into artistic expression, I mean, we got people in North America who were saying that the Diary of Anne Frank should be read by school children. So, you know, we can't roll out controversy. We can have standards, which I think we already do.
Great, I'll take those as comments and perhaps things for staff to consider in this report back. Okay, great. Any other comments, Commissioner Plaza?
Just a question, through you to staff, Madam Chair. What is the vandalism of ads within an LTC or bus potentially?
Through the chair, internal ads that not generally an issue, maybe more susceptible, like shelter ads would be more susceptible to vandalism and stuff that goes on inside the bus, because we've got the video, you know, recordings inside. People are less likely to undertake that activity inside a bus.
Thank you. It was just, if we're highlighting student artwork, I want to make sure that we're also protecting the students who their artistic expression, their name, their identity.
Okay, any other questions, comments, questions from the delegate? No, so we've got a motion on the floor, moved and seconded, it looks like everyone's got their questions and comments in, so then I'll just call motion to approve the motion. All in favor? And any opposed? So that carries. So thank you very much, Ms. Blastro. Appreciate it. And we'll probably see you back maybe early next year to provide some input as we move forward. Thank you very much. And you're welcome to stay if you'd like to watch the rest, or a few things to do. Feel free to. Thank you for coming. Bye. Okay, so we have received the letter already, so moving on to communication. We have 4 other letters, and so unless anyone wants, well, maybe I'll go through them one by one, consider motions. Now you want to receive them all? I just feel like there's direction out of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll go to take a motion to receive the first one from the city clerk. Moved by Commissioner Robin, second by Commissioner Plaza. Any questions on that? Seeing none, all in favor? And opposed, that carries to receive item 2. Item 3, the minutes from the Public Transit Service Advisory Committee. I did let staff know I was in attendance of that, but I wasn't in the minutes, so they've added me. So it will be amended to have me as an added attendee. Yes.
Yeah, I need to make a few comments about the minutes and the meeting.
Can you get a motion to receive them, or want to edit them? And then you can have comments on them. I see a motion from Commissioner Lehman and Commissioner Plaza, and then Commissioner Trassa, if you'd like to.
First of all, I want to welcome the new members to the committee. We had a very robust discussion, and I'm very excited about the fact that we have another group of people coming in fresh who are excited about the work of this committee. Having said that, there are 2 comments I want to make. Actually, there are 3 comments. Number one, I've been encouraging members of the committee, and you were there. I did this more at the first meeting. When you say something that sounds like it's your recommendation or something you believe in, we need to have a better way of having that reflected in the minutes. And I've been encouraging members of the committee to regularly summarize what the conversation has been in the minutes, because I think if this commission gets minutes back saying we had a meeting, we received a report, and that's it, it doesn't help us. Our next meeting is going to be crucial because we're going to have more discussion about the request for proposal. And I want to make sure that everybody understands that I'm going to be encouraging people to put things in the form of something written that can be reflected in the minutes. That's number one. I think I'll skip number two. Number three, at the meeting, I launched, and it wasn't in the minutes because I didn't put it in the form of a motion. It doesn't have to be in the minutes, but I want to say it again now. I strongly object. It's a public meeting. Anybody can come to a meeting. But I strongly object to having a representative of the current contract holder be an ex officio member with speaking rights in a meeting where we're discussing the request for proposal. I think that could be viewed as other potential bidders as unfair. And it was pointed out to me at the time, I think quite correctly, that those are what our rules are now. And if I want to change those rules, I need to say something at this meeting. So I would like to, at this meeting right now, and I would like this reflected in the minutes, state my strong objection to having Voyago at the table with speaking rights at meetings where we're discussing the request for proposal. And I'm looking for guidance from the chair as to how I can effectuate that, because this is going to happen again at our next meeting in a few weeks.
Sure. So my understanding is they are a member in the terms of reference for that committee, but I think then you'd have to amend the terms of reference to remove that position from that committee. I'm not sure if staff have any other recommendations. Through the chair, they are a member. So that would be the way to have them cease participating. I would comment that they are there essentially like staff, so they're not a voting member. They're not speaking as a committee member. They're there to respond to questions as staff would. So it's more of a staff role than it is a official committee role. But they are listed in the terms of reference as a member.
Can we not do a notwithstanding the terms of reference that when discussing the RFP, Voyago is asked not to participate in the conversation, just so we can address it for the next meeting?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we can notwithstanding most of our policies.
Could I move that? Because that satisfies my concerns without having to make a big deal about the terms of reference.
Through the chair, when you say not participate, do you mean ask them not to attend the meeting or
No.
just not speak?
Just for that portion?
Anybody can attend.
Just so like they drop out, they're virtual usually, so they drop off. No, it depends. I mean, they were here.
It's like if any of us were to declare a conflict, we would not participate in the discussion.
Yeah.
So we treat it so.
Okay, so just for the portion
Yeah.
we're discussing RFP. Okay, does that make sense to start? Yeah. Okay, so moved by Commissioner Trossau, any seconder?
Well, you can give her the credit for moving it, and I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Rollins, seconded by Commissioner Trossau. Okay, so that's on the floor. Any comments, questions, discussion, Commissioner Wilson?
Would that wording, seeing as they're already there as a non-voting member, would that wording then cease allowing them to provide clarity should there be a question on the RFP, since we just said you're not to participate in said discussion? I'm just thinking about like, they're there and they're not voting, then we're saying like, where's that line?
Yeah. Through the chair, what we could do if questions come up that would require that, we would have to tell the committee that we'd have to come back at the next meeting. So we could have that discussion with them offline and then come back with a response.
I appreciate the potential way forward, just realize that sometimes there's time constraints and this could be drawing it out 5 months.
Commissioner Trossau.
Or I understand your concern, but our staff can just have a sidebar with them. I just don't want to create anything that could conceivably come back on us as an irregularity in terms of demonstrating unfairness in favor of one potential claimant on this contract. We have to be very careful about that.
All right. So if any other comments, any other comments or questions on the motion on the floor? No, seeing none, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? And any opposed? Okay, that carries. And so that was motion, and then we had a move and second to receive the report. Are there any other comments in the general report? No? Okay, then Mary had a mover and second for that, so then all in favor of receiving the report from the committee? And any opposed? That carries. Okay, so that's done. So then moving to item 4, letter from Commissioner Rahman regarding in-camera items. Would you like to speak to it first, perhaps?
Thank you, and just to add, I think it's, well, I don't know if we need to put on the.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll put it on the floor and see if there's a second.
Seconded by Commissioner Plaza.
Thank you. So if I may speak to it, my only concern is that I would like something to go along with verbal updates so that we have information should we need it to be able to revisit matters that are discussed in camera. Sometimes it's difficult to recall the conversation, et cetera, which is usually minted and that's fine. But who was there, who presented, what was the general topic would be very helpful.
So would you, just to clarify, would you like that in advance as part of an agenda, or you want that in the minutes as a follow-up for future?
I'd like it in our package as a confidential.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this? No? Commissioner
Just to
Plaza?
say I agree.
Great. Okay, any comments from staff? No, happy to receive direction. Okay, then I've got the movement seconded and I'll call vote, all in favor? And any opposed? That carries. And then, well, appropriating transit stops as part of the city limit construction projects. Would you like to put your wording on that?
So I just want to put this as a receive at this point for more information. And I'm not sure that's seconded, but.
Seconded by Commissioner Hopkins.
Noting our budget constraints, noting that we only have $46,000 that we put into transit stop upgrades. It has to do with more aligning our city processes alongside LTC processes. So one of the things, and I noted in the letter, is the Sunday Road project. So when we're doing an improvement in a corridor, we're talking about a complete street design. How does that fit with our work on transit as well? So whether that is shelter upgrades or other things to show that that is part of that thought process, I think would be helpful. I know we're doing that on rapid transit implementation, but I do think there's opportunity in other roadwork projects. And I'm not sure what others' experience has been with that, but I just wanted to get that into the conversation as we're looking to make upgrades in neighborhoods for long-terms.
Commissioner Plaza?
Thank you. I would say a question through the staff for off of this conversation I had for like having with this question, realizing it's back to school time and some just as a parent going through parent portals, like remembering where the bus stops are. Some of the school bus stops will say like we're going to pick up the same location as the LTC bus stop. Is the LTC made aware of any of those locations? So I'm just thinking of as we have like city construction projects, also what school boards are doing of directing students within an LTC stop for the yellow school bus. Of just as we prioritize where we might consider benches, shelters, extra garbage, as there's different users that we wouldn't get tracked in our system because they're not tapping, but they're still there using our infrastructure.
Yeah, through the chair, no, we are not notified by the school boards as to if they are using our bus stops or not. So we don't have any idea as to where they're directing people to touch the bus.
No, I might work on something. We'll see. Just I think there's opportunities that there's students in certain areas, or even if we newer students for reading, they might consider different lighting of the city. Just for public transit users. Thank you.
Any other questions? Robert? And then so staff would, the motions to receive and get more info back from staff at a future date. Okay, any comments at this point?
I mean, Katie can provide an overview of kind of what our practice is right now.
Yeah, through the chair, we do currently work with the city on all construction projects. If there are areas where work is being done near the bus stop and those locations are warranted for a shelter, we do work with them to have them for the concrete pad as part of that work. But however, it doesn't happen in all cases because we do have our warrant process that we go through for our shelters to be installed. And so we review a variety of different criteria, such as the number of boardings at the stop, the type of area that it's in, whether there's other types of shelter around for people to wait under. And then they get assigned a score, and then they're prioritized on a list for a given year for implementation. Currently with our shelter contractor, we are able to install 3 new shelters per year.
Any other comments? Thank you. No, okay, then I've got a motion on the floor, moved and seconded, so all in favor? Anybody opposed? That carries. All right, moving on to consent items, so unless anyone wants anything pulled separately, I take a motion to receive all of these consent items. Moved by Commissioner Hopkins, seconded by Commissioner Lehman, and all of those are on the floor. Any questions or comments on those items? Jerome?
Sorry, I'm just making sure I'm on consent. I think I'm gonna know from set of staff report number 4. That is consent. Yeah, okay. So, sorry, just making sure. So there was a line about consistent with past practices, a list of runs has been identified for possible cancellation, should bus availability, I didn't find that.
Yeah, through the chair, we are still working through that list. We've been working with the fleet facilities team to determine if and how many runs may need to be canceled. So we are working through that, and we'll have information as soon as that's finalized.
So will we get that as a memo before the next meeting, or?
Yes, through the chair, that something would be sent out, communicated to all the members of the commission prior to the next meeting.
Thank you. And through the chair, so what's our timeline then to get the buses that we've taken in on that 15-day maintenance and preparation window? What's our timeline to get the full complement that we've had brought in so far out on the road?
To the chair, so we're hoping for mid-November to the end of November to have them all on. There's 34 buses that were placed in the order. 33 are on property, 1 is in transit. Out of those buses, 14 will be on the road I apologize, 12 are on the road right now, 14 will be on the road by Friday.
And what do you foresee as, I know there were some challenges with the deliveries, but also there was some challenges with some inconsistencies in terms of the buses that arrived or deficiencies on the ones that arrived. So what have been kind of some of the unforeseen challenges that we're experiencing that have caused this delay?
So through the chair, the major part of the delay was the delay of the buses coming to us, and then it rolled in with summer vacations and staffing issues. Anytime we have a problem with a bus that might be fleet wide, we work with the vendor very closely. They're on site with us to fix it. That's no different than any other build. So the one we had, this one here, we had a couple small issues that we've worked through, and there's been no issues that have come up from that. Not saying there won't be more issues in the future from that, but we work through them. But the vendors are excellent to come on property and help us out to make sure we can move on forward. So I don't see an issue going forward from there.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on items 1 through 11 for consent? Commissioner Plaza?
Thank you. I'm on staff report number 4, section 1.5, being the intercommunity transit service integration. I see some chatter online on the social media of just people trying to get out and get places. So just looking forward for staff to see, realizing we're working with some municipalities who haven't had transit service before. How is this being? Do we have numbers on the uptake of people using it or implementation thoughts? Anything coming back for feedback of how it's going so far?
Through the chair, the ridership from most of the municipalities is quite low. I don't have exact numbers recently, but it was fairly low with less than a handful of people per day on most of the routes. But we do continue to work with them, helping them tweak any kind of schedules, looking at different bus stop locations that they may want to service.
Any other, Commissioner Lehman?
Just on the item regarding the Western Fair riders through chair to staff. Just wondering if we can get some information in the next board meeting, excuse me, on the number of riders and what's that cost and, you know, an opportunity cost, like I know it's not a real cost, but, and how does it compare to the year before? I mean,
Through the chair, we can certainly bring that back post the
Yeah,
fair
sure.
experience, and we've done. Didn't really talk about it in this specific report, but we've done similar things, partnerships with the London Knights, where certain games, if you show your Knights ticket, you could ride the bus for free to and
Right.
from, that type of thing. So we've done programs like this in the past, but we can certainly bring a report back on what the implications of this one was.
Thank you.
And I'm curious, just as a follow-up, how do you track it? Like, I know the Western Fair showed their ticket, but then do the operators have like a tally sheet?
No, we're essentially, we're comparing, similar week of ridership to just see if there's increases and decreases on the specific routes that are serving the fair. So it's just more of a comparison of data.
Commissioner
That's good. So we don't know how many people are riding the bus without paying because they're showing their.
We don't know exactly, so like I said, we take a comparator week and we say, okay, on this, you know, on the comparator Tuesday, there were 300 riders on these routes, and on the day of the fair, there were 350. So we're assuming those 50, keeping in mind, it's only cash and ticket riders that we're worried about, because anyone with a monthly pass can ride for free the entire month.
Right.
The tuition passes all can ride for free. So it's really limited to cash and ticket riders that would be new. So we compare just the cash and ticket categories in those, you know, the comparator week and the new week, and we assume that any bump would be related to the promotion that we've got going on. And then the deal with Western Fair is anything in excess of a 10% bump, they will pay the fare. So
Oh,
essentially LTC is saying, we'll take care of, if there's up to a 10% bump, we're fine with that. That's kind of our partnership, but anything above that, Western Fair will reimburse us for the adult ticket fare for those rides.
oh, well, that's good to know. Okay, so if we could have some.
Right, we can bring all of that
That'd be
back.
great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've already seen the advertising for it on social media. The Western Fair. I'm excited. Great. Any other questions, comments?
Just. I think I'm still in the construction and special events update page. The Wellington Gateways, phase 3 and 4, just as word counselor, I know that there's been other, construction delays and, hearing some concerns from the mall as well. Just looking to see how ridership's still been in that area, if it's still holding, or I know some mall foot traffic is actually seeing an increase. Spirit Halloween's open. So just looking to see if, what our numbers are like specifically in that area, realizing it is a bit of a pain to navigate.
Yeah, through the chair, the ridership has remained fairly consistent. Obviously, there are some bus stops that are closed, so those have had an impact, but it does seem that passengers are going to the next closest stops to be able to catch the bus.
Commissioner Hopkins?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do have a question about the assessment growth, which is. That's not.
Under direction. yeah.
Oh, that's under
Yeah, yeah.
direction, we're
We're
not
jumping
there
ahead,
yet,
yeah.
okay,
It's
sorry,
good, but I'll put you down for that.
thank you.
Any other comments, questions? I feel like we've exhausted the list, so, I've already had a mover and seconder, so then all in favor of receiving the consent items? And any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you, and thank you to staff for all the work on all those reporting, all the behind the scenes. Moving to items for direction, so the first being item 12, 2026 operating budget growth, or budget program. And there are 3 recommendations within that report, so approve 2026 operating budget program, direct administration to submit it to the city, and direct administration to submit a budget amendment case reducing the city of London investment by $700,000 for 2026. So to get that on the floor, do I have a mover for that? Moved by Commissioner Hopkins, second by Commissioner Rahman. Any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Sharp.
So I'm not sure where to ask this question, because it kind of touches on a few of the items names for direction. But given the decline in the post-secondary enrollment and the estimated loss of ridership, does no plan to increase service to current routes still make the most practical sense? So What I'm trying to understand is we made some decisions based on, well, from the coming out of the multi-year budget. We made some decisions as to how we were going to best allocate our additional service hours. And with that decision, we based it on seeing more expansion buses on busier routes and things like that. Now we're seeing our ridership level change with respect to post-secondary education. So my question is, if that's still the most practical route to continue to expand in, or are there opportunities to expand service to underserved areas now that we're predicting less riders and routes around institutions?
I can start and then Katie can jump in, but essentially the important aspect of our 5-year plan. So we have a conventional service 5-year plan that covers 2025 through 2029 that looked at what we knew at the time, which was in 2024 when we prepared that. But an important part of that process is we revisit that every year. So every year when Katie's team comes with the recommendations for improvements for that year, we look at the current reality, not necessarily what was included. And as a result of that, the commission will often see things different than what was set out in the 5-year plan for that particular year. And it's because things have changed. I mean, it certainly happened a lot coming out of COVID because we saw significant changes in travel patterns, a lot to do with the hybrid work models and those type of things. We saw a lot more people traveling during what we would typically call our off-peak. So, you know, things had to change. So that's something that we'll continue to look at every year. I will say that a lot of the improvements, the base improvements that were included in the base budget, which are the 18,000 hours per year, those were not centered around Fanshawe or Western. Those were system-wide improvements that were put in place or being recommended because of significant crowding on routes throughout the system. So again, we continue to monitor that on a daily basis. So we know those load patterns and those ridership things, and that will be something that will be taken into account when you see the 2026. Katie, maybe I'll let you speak specifically to what we looking at forecast what's coming in 2026 is not really related to student ridership.
Yeah. Through the chair, as Ms. Pleshny mentioned, the majority of the things that we are looking at in 2026 as we're starting to work through that draft service plan process is looking at areas where we are seeing schedule adherence concerns. So looking at ways to improve the reliability of that service, as well as addressing frequency improvements, not necessarily related to the student areas, but just areas where we aren't currently meeting our service standards for how frequent a route should operate based on the type of route it is, whether that's an RTO route, a local route, etc.
Yeah, so I'm not sure again, that because this touches a little bit on the assessment growth component as well. I just want to, not go into both at the same time, but one of the challenges for my area, potentially also for maybe Councillor Hopkins areas and other areas that are fast growing in the city, is although those components of frequency and reliability are highly, are highly needed within the regular system. If we're talking about getting more people on buses, we have to provide buses to places that just don't have them. And so for me, the challenge is we're seeing the loss in ridership with I think it was 1.1 million rides from the student, the fluctuation with student numbers. And yet we're not saying, hey, there's potential to pick up that service somewhere else where we don't have any service, or even just, broadening some of those services within, moving, a couple stops up, even in the case of my ward, where we just don't have any service when it comes to the Foxfield area, the Hyde Park area, the limited service. Although, we're trying to capture that through assessment, I don't understand why we can't do more when it comes to the dollars that we've already provided. I understand how they're being utilized, but with these changes, I think that we have to look at whether or not there are more changes that can be made.
For a comment? Thank you. Any other? Did you have a question? No, you were waiting for this.
It's related.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments or questions on the operating budget? Item? Seeing none, so those three directions have been moved and seconded, so all in favor? And any opposed? Those three carry. Moving now to assessment growth. Also, thank you for the big budget package.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so assessment growth business case, and so again, the recommendations are to approve a submission for assessment growth business case for 2026 to provide expansion for Cedar Hollow Innovation Park, Summerside, Sheffield, Keynes Road, Upper Point Boulevard, West Byron, at an annual cost of 2.130900 million, and direct administration to prepare and submit the business case in the required city of London. So we've got the mover and secretary for that. Moved by Commissioner Hopkins, second by Commissioner Plaza. Questions, comments, debate on this item. So Commissioner Hopkins and then Tressa.
Yeah, just first of all, through the chair, thank you very much for giving us this information. It's very timely. And the assessment growth, it's well known to councillors that represent the west end of the city, that that's where all the growth is. And I want to add, as much as we are concerned about losing students, there's that growing population, not only with students out in the west end, but also an aging population. I'm starting to see that more and more as I enter that part of how we move around, and as we grow and expand, the importance of having other modes of transportation. The question is around assessment growth and the next steps going forward, because as I read this report, as much as we do the 1 year plan routes and taking advantage of assessment growth, we're still so far behind looking at, I think, 2029 to get some of these new routes. So, and that's depending on if everything goes forward and is approved through the business case. So I need to have a better understanding of what we need to understand when it comes to assessment growth and how we can take advantage of the population growth. So the process and next steps, knowing that we're down the road as it is, but how do we try to catch up? And a little bit, it relates to Commissioner Rahman's comments around how we're able to get the routes in sooner than the need, or how we mitigate that a little bit. So I know it's complicated, but next steps going forward, if you could just take it by day.
Thank you. I'll certainly try. So obviously this, if the commission approves this today, this goes to council for consideration. I guess first quarter of 2026 is usually when council deals with assessment growth. Subsequent to that being approved, as we said in the report, we would have to order the buses. So that's really the lag. So essentially, and this came through discussion with civic administration as a somewhat creative way to get this growth in, because we also need the buses. So essentially what we're doing in those first 2 years, the 2026 and 2027 funding will cover the cost of the buses. And then beginning in 2028, it works out that that's the operating cost for those services. And then that will go on, into perpetuity. So I think this is a really good first crack at utilizing assessment growth. And if this is the path forward, and we put forward assessment growth business cases each year, it will allow us to dig out of that hole. We've had 4 years where we haven't been accessing assessment growth. And when we created that 5-year plan that I talked about earlier, what we knew was we had the 18,000 hours a year that were in the base budget. And at that time, we did ask the consultants to come up with a list of the priority areas that would attract assessment growth if we could find a way to create a business case that would be consistent with the policy. So that's where these came from. So these were all included as part of that 5-year plan. We just had to find a mechanism to to make them fit within the assessment growth policy.
Thank you so much for being creative, taking advantage of the growth in our city and trying to get a little bit of a step ahead. See how this goes forward. Then, thank you very much for the report.
We've got Commissioner Trossel and then Commissioner Morgan. So, yeah.
I'm good.
Oh, you're good? Okay, so then Commissioner Morgan?
So just a couple of quick questions, and then I have some comments. First is in the consultations with our staff, was it recommended to take the approach that you did with basically putting in the operating a couple of years early to ramp up and be able to do the capital piece on the buses? Because I know in other years there's just been a one-time capital draw and assessment growth, and then the operating comes online. So this is I'm not saying I'm opposed to doing it this way. I just want to ensure that through the consultations you've had with the city, that this is something that they're aware of, and I don't know if you can say whether they were supportive of this approach in this way.
Through the chair. So yes, we did have extensive conversations with the finance department, and this was the approach that we all landed on, that made sense to find a way to get us the buses that we needed and then have the operating in place once those buses have been procured. Sure.
Great. So I'm not opposed to this approach. I actually think it's creative to bring it on a little earlier and then build it in that case. And I presume if there was a government program that came along, because the federal government will have their first budget in the fall, where we could procure buses or something like that, that we would offset other asks of the city in some way if federal or provincial dollars were available. But for this way, I think incorporating the capital needs into the assessment growth ask in this way, it makes a lot of sense. The comment I want to make overall is, I just want to thank the commission for working with our staff on this. I know in the report it identifies that this was a desire that council had, was to ask the commission to go in this direction, and the staff of the commission to work with a civic administration to find a path forward to be able to do those metrics. I certainly recognize that in the past, it's been tough to try to pull out the growth related pieces from the city in a way that would align with the assessment growth policy. So first off, I just want to thank you and the municipal staff for finding a really good path forward and finding a metric that makes sense, to recognize that when the city grows, there are new tax dollars that come in. Those new tax dollars pay for many things. Paying for some transit expansion is a reasonable thing to say. Like, this is exactly what we want to do. We would rather have growth in the city where we get new tax dollars and we can supply transit to new areas than have a bunch of growth around the city and in the counties and other outlying areas, because it's a much more functional way to grow as a region than spreading out in small towns across southwestern Ontario. So I think this is a great use of assessment growth dollars. I know that this will go into a process, and we basically submit it and we wait to see what the city does. I also want to say that assessment growth dollars kind of fluctuate in any given year based on the assessment in the city. And I think taking the creative approach with ramping up the capital, if there was, if assessment growth was tight in one of those early years, it could certainly be turned into a one-time piece from some source to kind of catch up, and then you ramp up to the amount later. So I think you've actually given municipal staff a lot of flexibility and options with the way you've approached it. So I think that this is a smart way to deal with assessment growth, and a really smart way to grow the service hours within the commission without putting additional operating asks on city council itself, but recognize that there are new tax dollars coming into the city, and a share of that should go to the transit commission. So just a long way to say really well done, and I really appreciate the work that went into this report and actually getting to an assessment growth ask.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I just so
I really do appreciate the report that's on assessment growth. I think that, I think that the direction was well followed, and I think that is going to lead to benefits for the city overall. The challenge I have continues to be, and will continue to be, that whether it's the mobility master plan or it's this plan for LTC and our operational, we continue to have to tell, the northwest part of the city that their needs will not be met until, at this point now, 2029. So I don't know how we can continue to go to one part of the city with less service and with less capacity for service when that part of the city has been in place for more than 15 years. And I'm not sure if, yes, it continues to grow, but the growth is already there. People are already there. And the fact that we have to continue to say, you're going to have to wait until 2029 to meet the bus stop within 400 meters seems unreasonable to me. So whether that's a federal ask at this point as a high priority for the Northwest, I don't know how we capture that in terms of language, but I would like to see potentially some direction come out of here to help to strengthen and ask at council that be the direction, because I think we're continually putting ourselves in a situation, whether it's LTC, it's community centers, it's schools, it's all of these resources for the fast growing parts of the city. And we're saying, I'm sorry, but we can't meet that need. And now it's great that we're having this conversation, that this is on the table, but we're still talking about 20.
I have a couple questions based on some of the dialogue that have come up. So I'm wondering, the biggest timeline blocker is how long it takes for us to get the bus. It's what, 1.5 to 2 years after ordering. And so if we approve this at this meeting, and then it goes into assessment growth, which we'll see, I think, March of 2026. That gets approved, that comes back to us by April. So we're probably not ordering the buses till April, May of 2026, if all gets approved. That'd be accurate.
Through the chair, what we've typically done is the commission meeting immediately following the approval of the assessment growth, we would bring a report recommending that we place the order for the buses. So it would depend, but yeah, the one immediately following that approval.
Okay. So then, and then I'm also wondering, do we have any reserve funds allocated specifically for like bus procurement or bus part things? No capital reserve funds for that kind of thing? No. And the bus cost in this would be for, I was trying to break it down, but I know it's 4 buses and we've essentially got 2.3. So is each bus about $1 million?
Just over $1 million.
Okay. Because I think the only thing for me, and again, maybe I'm just gonna say this as comments, and obviously not as direction because I haven't thought through, but it sounds like if we were pre-ordering buses without having confirmed revenue, which is risky, but I'm just throwing it out there, given that council has generally said that we want to be giving this money to LTC, it would expedite potentially by 9 months earlier. So accurate?
That is accurate. However, the other important piece that we tried to articulate in the report, and maybe it wasn't spelled out super clearly, is that the changes that we're contemplating here also require changes as part of our base 18,000 hours, because it's routes that will work together. So we're making other tweaks that are scheduled for 2028. So they all have to, the system all has to work together. So the 2028 works well because those other changes will be going in that same year. So yes, technically we could have the buses sooner, but we wouldn't be in a position to put those other changes in place until 2028.
I was just hoping, like in my head, they're going to be pre-ordered for now, and then we're ready to go into town. But okay, I understand. Commissioner Tressa?
Yes, through your chair, I really like what you just said. I think it makes a lot of sense. Is there any risk to the staff? Is there any risk that if we had, let's say, 4 new buses right now, ready to go, that they'd be sitting there unused, or is our demand now such that we'd be able to put them into service right away?
Through the chair, we would never leave buses sitting unused because that leads to all kinds of maintenance issues. So they would be put into the rotation. They would be, they would be in excess of what the buses are required for the current level of service that we have in place, but they would certainly be put in rotation and be utilized until such time as they're, as they would be required for the actual expansion.
And all new fleet has a certain, I don't know what the right accounting word is, but all new fleet has a certain write-off period, right? And that period would start as soon as it's put into service.
Yes.
Which would also expedite replacing them 20 years or whatever it is down the line. Well, in addition to new communities coming online with assessment growth, it seems that like every time we have a discussion about we're gonna build one, let's just not to pick up just an example, Peck Road. Just by way of example, we're approving a lot of new development there. And one of the concerns that was raised was we don't have the transit to support it. I don't think it's a drastic overstatement to say we need to take into account the increased demand that Pack Road, what's another good example? Oh, all of the development that's been approved along, say, for example, Oxford. Quite a bit. We've had discussions about, we're gonna need service improvements to support this new development. And it's sort of like, build it and they'll come. Well, the approvals are there, stuff's getting built. I don't think we're going out on the limb if we pre-order. So I do want to follow up on what Chair has said and just wonder if there is some creative way to be able to pre-order some of our demand, because we don't know that when we're ready to actually order the bus, there isn't going to be some new global crisis in supply or availability. I think we don't want to get stuck not having the fleet that we need, and we're growing. So just want to support what you were saying.
Yeah, perhaps for discussion. I feel, again, I don't want the risk to be held with LTC. I prefer it to be held elsewhere, but perhaps another discussion we have to order.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll put a plug in it for now. Any other comments or questions on the assessment growth business case? I also just want to echo my thanks that has been shared. I think this would be very well received at council, but that's just an assumption. Any other comments? No, seeing none. I have a mover and seconder, so I'll call vote. All in favor? And any opposed? Okay, that carries. Moving on to 2026 capital budget program. And that is to approve the 2026 capital budget program of 37,046,000, comprised of the following programs, and to direct administration to submit the recommended 2026 capital budget program and provisional estimates for 2027 to 2035 for civic administration. So can I get a mover and seconder for that? Get on the floor, moved by Commissioner Trotso, seconded by Commissioner Hopkins. Any discussion or questions on the capital budget program? So good, we have no questions. Excellent, okay, well then I will call the vote, all in favor? And any opposed, that carries, thank you, excellent, no questions. Okay, moving to secondary school student transit pass pilot program. I'll move the chair to Commissioner Rahman and I will do myself.
Yes, thank you. I am the chair. I'll look for a mover and a seconder on this item. You'll note that in the report. There is. It's just received one second. Confirm. Thank you. Yes, to confirm, participation in the secondary school transit pass pilot program scheduled to launch in September 2026. So I will look for a mover and a seconder and discussion. Council Pelosa, looking for a seconder. And the mayor, thank you. Okay, with that, let's undertake some discussion on this item. I'll look to Councilor Crossett. Go ahead.
I assume that technically, through the chair, anything that's written in this report would be included in a broader explanation of the very, very short motion that's on the floor. Is that correct?
Does staff need more clarification?
Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean.
Can you expand a little on that?
Well, for example, one of the things that's in the report at the end that's very important to me, which would be, total deal breaker if it wasn't in there, is that this commission is not explicitly not agreeing to undertake any of the expenses from this. I would feel more comfortable if that was stated in the motion. But if you're gonna tell me it doesn't need to be stated in the motion, because technically it's in the staff report, so everything that's in the staff report is subsumed into the motion. I guess I could live with that, but then again, for public consumption, would there be any objection if I made an amendment to say it being noted that LTC is not undertaking any additional expenses on this project?
Through the chair, so the prices that are included in the report that would be LTC costs have been incorporated in the overall costs that have been tabled with council. So the impression or the understanding is that we would not be incurring any costs, but there would be nothing. It wouldn't be problematic for you to include that amendment because that is the intent. The process that we're following here is this report's coming to the commission to ensure the commission is happy with what they're seeing with respect to the metrics. We didn't bring back the full MOU because it was really around the metrics that were the questions that council put this back to everyone. So we're answering the questions with respect to the metrics. A similar report's going to the Thames Valley board and say, well, the supervisor, Patrick, and so once those two have been confirmed, then a full report, including the MOU, will go to council. So essentially what we're asking the commission today is just to cue that the commission is confirming that they want to participate in the eventual report that goes to council so that when the report does go to council, it will say all parties are on side.
Counselor, or sorry, Commissioner?
Okay, that's good for now. I just don't want any surprises.
Thank you. And it is outlined in responsibilities for the City of London there. So I think it's still a need. Any additional questions on this item? I have two. I'm wondering if I can turn the chair to Councillor Hopkins so I can ask my questions.
I have the chair, Commissioner Roman.
Thank you. So two of my questions. The first relates to, in the report, it says the limits are around data. That data is that sharing and using ridership data that is disaggregated to the individual level would contravene LTC's policies on data privacy. I'm just wondering, do you require a motion that says, notwithstanding our policy, we will allow disaggregated individual level data for the purpose of the secondary school pilot so that we can address those concerns? And then by way of notification or request for consent, we will inform parents and guardians of how data are used.
So through the chair, we're not suggesting that individual data is required in order to be able to provide indication of the success of the program. That was just more there as a flag that we will not provide individual data. So we will not say, Corinne's child got on the bus on Tuesday morning, and then again Tuesday evening. We won't provide that level of specifics. What we will do is break down, as we indicate in the report, between two groups of students. So essentially those that have access to Yellow Bus and those that don't. And that will allow us to compare, are the ones that don't have access to Yellow Bus making more use of transit or vice versa. So those are the two groups. And will be the other important piece that we'll be able to tell is if we issue, say there's 100 of those passes in each of those two groups, we will be able to tell that only 60 of the students in each of those groups have ever tapped the card. So we'll be able to provide that level of information, but we won't be able to say it was Johnny and Susie that didn't, and it was these students that did. So from our perspective, there really isn't a requirement to get to that level of, individual type of data. If that's something that the city decided they wanted in order to be able to measure, then we would certainly want some kind of a sign off, because we have always been very specific that we would never mine data to that level where we were essentially tracking an individual's use of the transit system.
Okay. Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that it's not necessary, but I just want to make sure that it was kind of outlined as a challenge. So glad that's not necessary for me to make. with respect to the MOU, when it says responsibilities and it outlines TVDSB, London Transit and City of London, the one thing I will note is although we talk about educating students, caregivers and guardians on how to use the system, we don't really talk about it other than communication. We don't talk about really advertising to or marketing to those demographics to be able to take advantage of the pilot. So although we're communicating it, how will we get that broader message out? You know, sometimes I can tell you having a teenager, you know, things don't always make it home to me, but I might read it somewhere else in the community. So I'm just wondering who and how we can also put that into part of the responsibilities around getting that information.
Ms. Pelletier?
Through the chair. So I mean, that would obviously be something I would imagine LTC would work with the school board. I mean, the school board has the direct contact information of the students that would be involved in the pilot. So we would certainly, you know, make every effort to have promotional materials, you know, ride guides, those type of things available as the kind of welcome package that the students would be provided when they receive also that training in terms of the expected behavior on bus and all of that. So I mean, I think it's inherent in there that would be part of what would be included, but if that's a bullet that needs to be enhanced, again, certainly from the commission's perspective, it could be enhanced, but that would be something, these are just high level bullets from the MOU, so.
I think as we look to increase our communication to the community, as we look to expand our social media presence, et cetera, this is a good or should be some good alignment with what we're doing with the MOU. So if it's already included in a way, by way of that communication component, that's fine, but maybe within our communications scope plan as it comes back, maybe we need to communicate some metrics in there for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, for those comments. I return the chair back to you.
Thank you, and I will go to Commissioner Tressa. Go ahead.
Thank you. The one thing that I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more specificity about is how we're gonna enforce these new conduct rules. I think it's important that when the participants in this program get on the bus and it's close to a peak time, they don't take the seats at the front, which are supposed to be reserved for certain other riders. Because it's often the case that they don't get up as quickly as they might when a senior or somebody with a stroller or somebody with a walker gets on. And I feel that puts a little extra pressure on the drivers, and I don't want to do that. Is there some way we could write with some greater specificity rules of I don't want to say behavior because it's not necessarily rowdy behavior, but it's like, don't even think of sitting in these seats.
Point of personal privilege.
Thank you. I will hear your point of personal privilege.
The commissioner's comments are implying that students also can't have disabilities. There's a point that my son did attend school on an LTC bus and had. Thank you.
And yes.
Commissioner, I will respond first. I hear your point of personal privilege. I will go to the commissioner, Tressa, just to perhaps restate what it is that you were saying.
Yes, and I think,
Thank you.
let me know when I can talk.
Go ahead.
Yes, your point is very well taken. And it's certainly not my intention to preclude people based on age or status of the ability to make use of these facilities. I am concerned, I do remain concerned though, based on my own observation on buses, limited as that may be, that youth of all varieties often tend to stay at the front of the bus, especially if the bus is crowded. And again, my main concern here, well, two main concerns, making sure those seats are available without any conflict or hesitation on the parts of people who of all ages need to use those seats. And I do not want to put any pressure on the drivers.
Thank you. I'll go Ms. Fleshney for any
Sure.
comments you have.
Through the chair, so part of that education campaign that we talk about in the MOU would relate to the use of our priority and courtesy seating areas and the expectations that you don't put your bag on the seat beside you, you leave that open for other people, all of those kind of courtesy things, as well as the expectations with respect to our priority seating area and that it is a designated area. So that would certainly all be included. I would comment though, and I mean, the rationale for the behavioral piece is also very important because if we look back to when we launched the free transit for kids under 12, we had a number of areas where we actually had to send our supervisory staff out to talk to principals of schools because of the behavior on buses. So again, it's more of a preemptive, just a reminder, you know, here's the expectations when you're riding public transit. But certainly the priority seating would be a key part of that message.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, this item is moved and seconded. No problem. All in favor? Thank you, and there will be no leader of abstention, but also that I will return to you.
Okay, I have the chair and moving on to the next item, a camera item. So we have 2 items for the camera for, so I'll for that, I'll ask all of our guests to leave. Thank you very much for coming. You'll be welcome back for after the camera, which is a very short portion. But I will get 2 motions and then we'll pause. So, motion to move the camera consistent with section 239 in the municipal act, permission moving camera the following. Update on a matter of litigation or potential litigation could be managed for administrative tribunals affecting the municipality, and to update on a labor relations or employee negotiations matter. So moved by Commissioner Hopkins, seconded by Commissioner Rahman. All in favor? And any opposed? So that carries. So we'll just take a minute or 2 to get everything set up. Session. So date of next meeting is Wednesday, September 29th, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. here. No additional comments other than thank you and hope everyone had a great summer. And I'll take a motion to adjourn, moved by Commissioner Commissioner Rahman, second by Commissioner Hopkins, and all in favor. And that carries. Great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Nice.
Thank you, everyone.
And for anyone who has